My name is Ahmed Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmo, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talking about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the last day of the month. Today is Sunday, August the 31st. 2025. Your rent is due tomorrow, first of the month. So don't forget, I want to remind you, your mortgage, your rent, everything starts tomorrow, the first of the month. If you don't do so, they will be evicting you just like they have evicted the Unity Party and the CDC. You'll have your bag on your back, finding somewhere to go. But it is a great day here in South Florida. I have with me some of the great minds of our time. We will be discussing current events in Liberia. We will be talking about the difference between the United States or the West and Africa. Tomorrow is something called Labor Day, where the American government sets aside a day to say thank you to our street sweepers, our janitors, our doctors, our lawyers, everybody is appreciated on this day they call Labor Day. Mr. Valley will tell you that in this country, no matter what is it you do, when you make a living, you have to be proud of yourself. We do it with honor. It is in Africa that we have to learn how to value labor. If you are a farmer, you are a street sweeper, you clean the drainage, it is labor that we need to value. It's not only when you wear suit and tie to sit behind some desk. So the Western society, especially in these United States, set aside the first Monday in September as a national holiday, federal holiday, to celebrate workers. Hopefully we can adopt some of these customs that we can take home to let our folks know that if your parents, if they are farmers, farming is work. Taking care of children is work. We celebrate Labor Day. Before we go into the topics, let me start with Mr. Towel. You are a hardworking man. You've been working since you were a kid. Talk to us about labor and what makes you a good laborer.
That's interesting. Well, as an African and understanding from an African perspective, the reason we don't name these things, so say Labor Day, to say Child's Day, Women's Day, is because the entire society as a whole recognize these things at every level, and it is appreciated. I think what we struggle with as Africans is that we have this, how you call it, the two-sided stuff here in the so-called cities. We are struggling with the Western or Arab, whichever area, that group that have the most influence, where the so-called governance system is set up. We are struggling with their ideology and their cultural makeup. And then you have our own culture. If you look, most of us here who grew up around our people and went in the villages and towns. We don't need to have these days, because it's already recognized and it's appreciated and it's built in the society that is recognized. So we don't need an extra day. So it is actually known. It is when, as we get pulled away, and then we'll come here. And remember, the reason that Labor Day actually even exists is because when you leave your land and you come into a place where they say depend on the government, where you are renting and doing all this stuff, you actually depend on labor to go work for other people. Generally in the African setting, or not just very wealthy people, because everybody's attached to land. So everybody's an entrepreneur for themselves. We work for ourselves. Yes, people may come and work for you a little bit here and there, but largely. So like in the US, if you're comparing it, this is a place where the people own nothing. Look at this society and look at this culture. Every land is owned by banks or so-called wealthy families. So the people are actually squatters. So for them to pay for all of the expenses that are going to charge them, they have to go look for work. That is why we have to be very careful. Each time they say there is concession, they say, oh, it's going to create job. How much job compared to what you're losing? They'll go ahead and uproot people like Firestone, uproot all those people off of that land in the name of going to go get job. And at the end of the day, they became dependent. So when we talk about Labor Day with respect to, it's a Western ideology, Western construct that really don't fit into the African narrative.
Thank you. Mr. Valley, I stand to disagree vehemently with Mr. Tao. I think when we are doing, like we said, all culture was built on the best of everybody else's culture. And these people build their culture on what we abandon, things that we value, but we don't put premium on it. They take it and improve on it, then we get vexed. Is there anything wrong with me setting a special day aside to appreciate my mother, Mother's Day, where we set everything aside and say, Mom, today is your day. We give you your flower. We take you out. We know you do this every day. We appreciate, we know, but today we're going to take this day to celebrate you. I don't think there's anything wrong with some of that nature, Valley.
Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong. Only that you're comparing and contrasting. That's the question you asked the man. So he's giving you the pros and the cons. There's nothing wrong with deciding to set aside Labor Day, but you have to look at the context from which he is also speaking. There are some very good truth in there. We have to be celebrated here as laborers because the government depends on us for everything that it does. For example, I got paid on Friday. I bought me a pair of shoes. Even though Uncle Sam took his taxes on payday, when I bought those shoes, he also took us some of my money again. So we basically work for Uncle Sam. So you got to appreciate the people that work for you. But what Tao is saying, our people basically work for themselves. Whatever they do for themselves. So they appreciate what they do in their own setting and in their own way. What I think what Mr. Tao is trying to say, and I must agree to, I don't think he's trashing the idea. I think what he is trying to say is that just because it fits here, it doesn't mean it must fit there. Because those people too have their natural understanding and way of life. So in as much we appreciate Labor Day here, but we cannot say that our people do not appreciate Labor Day there because they do not do it the way we do it here. They are two different people, two different creatures. In fact, I can be bold to say that we were even created by different gods.
Mr. Dr. Booty, for those of us that grew up in Liberia, I never aspired to be my parent. I have never aspired to be a farmer. I have never aspired to be a trapper. I have never aspired to be any other person than either president, doctor, lawyer, people that I see sitting in their office and driving the big, we call it official car. Nobody have ever told me that, listen, what your parents are doing, trappers are important, farmers are important, dig ditchers are important, grave diggers are. Nobody ever said that until I came here, that these are all careers from which I can make a living.
Well, I think I tend not to agree with Mr. Tao, but I will slightly agree with him, and I think a lot of the viewers might be thinking, how is it possible that Tao, Valley, and Budi are all agreeing in some way, if not entirely? Look, when you look at the history of Labor Day in the U.S., I don't live in the U.S., but I have some idea of it. I think it was around 1886 or something like that, something called the 8-hour movement, where people were pushing back on the number of hours they were working every day, and they wanted to have 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours of something else, right? And I can't just put my finger on it right now. And that is the whole idea. That's the background for celebrating that movement. That the movement kind of brought forward the idea of the 8-hour working day. But as someone who subscribes to neo-Marxism, I think labor is as Marx would put it, should be something that the benefit of labor should be owned by the people, right? But unfortunately, in capitalism, laborers, all of us, who, whether you work for yourself or whether you work for someone else, we are laboring, and we really don't own our labor unless you're the top 1%. The top 1% owns everything, and the rest of us work for the top 1%. And that is not something I would want to celebrate. Right? I wouldn't want to celebrate the system as it is, because it's an exploitative system. So you've got the majority of the billions and billions of people on the planet who are working tirelessly, some of them not being paid enough. Again, you can expand the conversation to look at people in Liberia, for example, working on cocoa farms to produce cocoa only for some white guy sitting in New York or wherever the WTO is to tell them how much they'll buy their cocoa. Now, in the olden days, if you look at what Mr. Tao was saying, when Mr. Tao produces cocoa and I want to buy cocoa from him, he tells me how much I pay for his cocoa because he knows how much labor he's put into producing his cocoa. Now, because of this capitalist system, someone else tells you how much your labor is worth. And that is not something I would want to celebrate in the current system. And thankfully, we don't have a Labor Day in the UK. Well, congratulations to you guys, obviously, for celebrating your day. But it's not something I would subscribe to, and I just don't see, because of the history behind it and the world that we live in. I don't see any value in Labor Day.
Great. Let me go to Mr. Elvis Morris. Elvis, in 1894, Cleveland and the United States came together and said, we are going to set this day aside to honor all those who make contribution to making this country great, whether small or big. everybody is going to be celebrated. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Your take on the Labor Day?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gilman. I'm going to kind of second what Dr. Booty said because for many people who live in this country, they know that the workers are underappreciated. Capitalism is running right. The little guys are left behind usually. The work is underappreciated. So the fact that you have a day that celebrates your labor, it's almost ironic at this point. I mean, back then when people were building railroads and really building the infrastructure of this country, that would have been, more appreciated. But now it's all about getting a quick dollar and, workers being taken advantage of, the laborers not being adequately compensated. So, some people have a sour taste. But I want to, refer back to Liberia, right? I mean, I think it's twofold. The people who are laborers, whether they're working in government or in private companies and institutions, I don't think they're appreciated enough. And also, I don't think they do a good enough job. I don't think they take, not everybody, but I don't think they take their job seriously enough. I think we have to respect labor more. I think we have to, as a people, put value on labor because it can build a nation. It can really build a society. When you have strong-minded men and women who know they have who has a purpose and has entrusted themselves to work, off the sweat of their brows to really build a lasting, country, whether it's the infrastructure or even the societal structure of a nation. I think the government has to really, reapply themselves when it comes to gathering labor, collective labor to really build that country. All of these roads, all these infrastructure projects, we have a lot of people in there. If we train them properly, we can have the workforce to really build our country. Just a thought, food for thought. But Labor Day for me is not a big deal. It's just a day we get off of work. Or, we'll go back to work tomorrow. I know the kids will start school, sometime this week in my, in my state here. So it's no big deal. Labor Day, it's kind of lost its luster for me. But thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are, tomorrow is Labor Day. I salute you for what you do. In fact, all of my employees, or tomorrow is a federal holiday, our janitors and everybody is going to get paid. They're going to get their full salaries for the day. That is how we pay respect to those who labor for us. So everybody stay home with their families and they're going to get their full pay. So to me, that is a great policy for our folks. It tells us and our children that you can become anybody. Do whatever it is that you do, you can make a living and be proud of what you do. In other countries like Liberia, people don't want to tell you that they are janitors. They don't want to tell you that they are farmers because our society had impressed upon them that only those who work on Capitol Hill that make the big money, as evidenced by their salary. You want to appreciate somebody? See how you pay them. We don't pay employees, we don't pay sweepers, we don't pay janitors in Liberia, but we pay lawmakers $200,000-$300,000. So that tells you how we value our folks. But that being said, let's go to
Mr. Gilman.
Yes.
30 seconds.
Yes, go ahead.
I know you're pro-American. I am pro-American too. As a matter of fact, I carry an American passport. So I vowed to defend this country, and I meant it. But let's face some reality. When you talk about Liberia and janitor and all of that stuff, what about here? Temporary employees are not going to get paid tomorrow. Part-time employees are not going to get paid tomorrow. Are they not laborers too?
Well, this is why they put them into different categories. People who work part-time either have another job or they choose to be part-time. If you work full-time, they tell you the benefits.
So Labor Day doesn't apply to everyone then, right?
It does.
Okay, go ahead.
It does. Yeah. Tomorrow, even if pay or no pay, you stay home and spend time with your family. But let's go to our topics here.
No, Mr. Gavin, that is not the best way to end this. And Mr. Tawa, I'll let you come here as well, but let me just say 10 seconds. You can't say pay or no pay, you get to spend time with your family. The people who are not getting paid don't want to be spending time with their family. They would rather be getting paid. because they need that money to feed their families. But because those of you who are getting paid are being told, Mr. Gaiman, if someone's working part-time, they're getting less money. If you tell them there's an extra day that you're not going to work out of no choice of yours, where you don't have the option of saying no to the money at all, you're punishing these people.
No,
right?
we're not.
You can't.
No, that's not true. Because I have two positions here now that I'm advertising as part-time. Only for those who want to do part-time. If you don't want to do part-time, you want to do full-time, you go somewhere else and get a full-time job. The job that I have is for somebody who has a full-time job that want a side hustle. You come and do it. If you want to do a part-time job, if you want a full-time job, you go somewhere where they have it. But it doesn't mean we are punishing those who want to work part-time. Yeah, Mr. Taiwo, real quick.
So look at what happened here real quick, I have been in the corporate setting for a long time. And they have at least about 20 to maybe 25% of the U.S. workforce, whether part-time or not, they don't qualify for holiday. This is the reality. They are hourly people, they punch the clock. So they don't want to stay home when there is holiday. And so now you will see that a whole bunch of the so-called big companies, unless you are in the top corporate companies, people go to work. People are working tomorrow. So the holiday is just not really in name because people have to make a living. If you stay home and you're punching the clock, unless you're on salary, what percentage of the U.S. workforce is on salary? A big portion is not, they're not on salary. If you're major companies. So if the holiday come in, guess what? So most of them are fighting for overtime so that they can make up for the shortfall of this holiday that is coming. That's a reality. But look at what happened here. It's almost impossible for us to compare the two societies when it come to, because we go say, somebody doing traditional wedding in Liberia. All wedding is traditional. If you're wearing a white gown, that's a Western tradition. If you're wearing the Muslims, that's Muslim tradition. So I don't know where we come from with our own culture that is supposed to be something else. Like when we talk about Mother's Day, that is a point I wanted to make. The reason the Africans don't celebrate that way, the Western society is an individualistic society where the people are scattered, where they barely talk to each other. We are here, where the moment they're 17, 18, they move out somewhere else because they don't own their own land to where if their mom live here on 2 acres, they can build their own house right there. The law doesn't permit it. They have to get permit. They're not allowed. So they move somewhere else. So they don't see each other that much. So they decided to set aside a day, which I think is commercial anyway by the day. But it's just a commercial stuff. But the logic, then they come together for that time. But look at the African society. We all own our land. We live right there. Hey, my man, my son built a house right there. Everybody's so close-knit that you always see your mom. You recognize your mom. You're always with her. You don't leave her for you to say that my son was gone. It's been 6 months. We're talking it twice. That don't happen that easily in the African society. So as a result, our society is not suited for us to try then to choose a day to say we're going to celebrate our mom and our father because we're already celebrating them. Because we live it, you don't have to look for a special day. So we can't compare these societies like apple to apple because two different cultures that function completely differently. They have different ways that they approach things.
Good. That is the view of Dr. Taiwo, Mr. Taiwo, and the rest. And I have my view. My view is I appreciate the United States and the value they put on labor. It makes me to feel like whatever I do, I can make a living.
But you're twisting the thing. He didn't say he does not appreciate the United States.
I never said that. I said I appreciate the American.
I just wanted to clarify for the audience's sake because some people are watching. People are watching here that we don't know and we don't see them watching.
Valley leader, man, so we can get to Liberia.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
I said I appreciate the American style for valuing labor and putting premium on it by making me to understand that whatever I do, I can make a living. And this is what we are talking about. It is the whatever culture you try to build, you take the best of everybody and add it on and have a blend. But let's go to the topics today here. Mr. Mr. President Joseph Boakai dismissed the entire leadership of the LDEA, that's the Liberian drug. The folks who are into hopefully stopping drugs, the illegal importation, illegal drugs in the Republic of Liberia. It says here President Joseph Boakai fired LDA top brass, named interim team amid drug crisis. Monrovia, August 28th, in a sweeping move that underscores mounting public pressure over Liberia's drug crisis, President Joseph and Boakai Sr. had dismayed the top leadership of Liberia DEA. Citing administrative reasons, the decision we took effect immediately followed weeks of public outrage over the agency's handling of drug enforcement, including a recent scandal involving the chief of operations. Guys, this is the president's fourth appointment in 18 months, fourth. He came to power, he appointed Abraham Krumah. That was the first group of appointments. He got rid of them on an investigation. He brought in an interim team, appointed a gentleman from the American Embassy. He came in. When he left, the third group came in, that I'm getting rid of now. That third group got caught into all kinds of stuff and they got fired. And now he has appointed the fourth group that's coming in. So here we are. Let me start with Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris.
All right.
The ANC people say doing the same thing over and over and they expect different results. It's insanity. This president keeps appointing people over and over and over, and the same thing keeps happening. In fact, this one was even worse than the one that he replaced. Your take on this?
All right. Thank you. Look, Mr. Gay Man, let's be fair. You know, people who fight drugs, as I refer to them as drug fighters, right? Even in this country, the DEA agents, they're sometimes compromised by drug dealers. They're sometimes on the payroll of drug dealers. You have in this country, there's a phrase people use, dirty cops, right? People who are corrupt, but they're working in law enforcement. Even in this advanced country where most of these cops have a nice pension, they get a good salary, but some of them are corrupt. So what about a country where poverty is rife, like Liberia, where people have a pension to want to make a quick buck? You're going to have people who are working on the payroll of drug dealers and trying to get a piece of the pie and turn a blind eye to one or two people, but then will work diligently to do their job on the rest of the people. But my point here is that institutionalization or institutionalism, right? Where you have people who have earned, based on the merit of their performance throughout the years, serving in a capacity, earn a promotion to go to be a deputy or, director general or whatever of an agency. Instead, the culture in Liberia, the governance culture is that when you come in, you bring your own people. That's what's going on right now in the United States at the FBI, a lot of different agencies where you have career people who have been working there, who have earned the right to be in those positions over the years through the merit of their performance. But now you have people who are taking for those positions and loyalists are being put in. The LDA is very sensitive. You have to have almost a tribal knowledge of that agency to be able to work in there, know how to do the job, know how to get intel, know how to catch people, know how to, So just moving people and bringing people in, most of them who are not within the organization, it's a problem. And I'm always hesitant when I see somebody applying for that job. If they're so eager to get that job, there's two things behind it. One, which is usually the case, they really want to fight the drug and they really want to make a difference. And second, they want to go in there to protect their friends. They want to go in there to shut people down. We had allegations of that with A.B. Krumah when his deputy was making that allegation against him, that he had people that they couldn't touch because A.B. was protecting them. We have a similar thing here. I think, we have another guy who was abusing his power, which is everywhere in government. You know who I am? whether it's minister, deputy minister, even the driver to the minister, they'll always actually know who they are because they got some attachment to power. So I think the president has to recalibrate. I think this is an opportunity. It's not a complete failure. He can really show that he's serious about this and really find some qualified professional people who are integrous, people who have the integrity to do this job, people who have some money, and maybe up to pay a little bit. I mean, restructure the pay. Boakai at the CSA can restructure the pay of LDA, make it more attractive, but put some stringent regulations that if you break the trust of the public by taking money from drug dealer, your punishment will be even higher than that of the regular workers or regular people who work in government, because we're depending on you to fight this fight for us that our country needs so much right now. So, Mr. President, my only thing to you is reconstitute this entire leadership structure of the LDA. Make sure you find the most qualified, the most integrous people, and the people who really have the heart and the mind, to really do the job and do it effectively. Thank you.
Great. Dr. Booty, your take on this. Let me lead in with this here. One of the president right-hand men, is Amara Corner, Senator Amara Corner says this. He says there are two issues plaguing President Boakai's administration. He said, and it can be attributed to two main factors. First, number one, political interference in the vetting of appointees by different factions in the government. And the second factor is the infiltration of the drug cartel in the administration. Those two things have overcome the administration. This is from within. This is not anybody accusing the administration. This is one of the insiders of the administration.
First of all, I'm not sure how much of an insider Mr. Corner is. I know he did the data analysis for the Unity Party during the elections, but my experience and obviously with information that I have, obviously engaging with people in Liberia when I travel there, he is not as a friend of the government like a Darius Dillon or a Young Kanga. So he doesn't have that kind of influence. So, but I think what he's saying makes sense, right? I think you have to take it, whether you are an individual close to the president or not. I think it's obvious for anyone who has the ability to dissect what is going on in Liberia that there has always been from the start, and we, when you invited some of us to join the show somewhere back in January last year, we've said it on here many times that the president wasn't even making the appointments himself. You had a group of people, Senator Lawrence, one of them, who were making decisions about who get appointed. So it's not surprising. Again, for me personally, I don't believe I'm surprised, because we said this way before the election that this president did not have the capacity, not because it's not because of anything against him. It's just that he's old, right? And it's not just the age, but he doesn't seem to be someone who has the stamina to keep up with the pace of the way things are moving in Liberia. Because you have like 20, 30, 40 different interests all pulling you in different directions. You have to have the stamina to be able to cope with it. And the president doesn't have that. But coming to the actual issue on the ground, when it comes to the drug issue in Liberia, I think nobody, and correct me if anyone on here knows, but I don't think anyone understands what the root causes of these things are. There are, in different sectors, in different countries, in different contexts, different factors that contribute to rampant drug use and infiltration of drugs into a country. Until you can understand, one, where the drugs is coming from, two, how it's getting into the country, three, why young people are turning to drugs, I believe it's difficult for any strategy to be developed that can address the drug issue, because you have to stop the drug coming into the country first and foremost. So you need to know where it's coming from and who's bringing it. And then you need to try and address the reason why young people want to take drugs, right? Now, I'm not an economist. I did economics in my first degree, but it was just one module. But there's this thing that all of us, whether you're an economist or not, understand: supply, demand, right? If you are finding where the thing is coming from and you're cutting the supply, at the same time trying to understand why people are demanding drugs, and you're reducing that demand, then you can solve the drug problem. How many people you appoint, how many people you fire is not going to do that. I agree with Mr. Morris. I think people, and I was on a show with Dennis a couple of weeks ago with a guy, a gentleman called Dr. Sharif, and we were talking about the drug issue. And he said, look, pay the people, at least the guys at the top at LDEA, 5,000 a month minimum, right? Because like Mr. Morris said, when you incentivize people, you pay them a decent living wage, the guy is then able to go and run after a drug cartel and punish them in the way that they should be punished, because he knows he's getting enough money to take care of himself and his family. But if you're paying the guy $250 every month, and then the man go boss somebody, the president say, my man, they think that 400,000 worth for 10 years, I'll give you 100,000. You expect even the most so-called moral of us will think twice about saying no to $100,000, right? When you're taking 250, when you know it will take you like 20 years to make 100,000. So to try and look, this has to be for the president. I'll finish on this. It has to be a holistic approach, and he's acting because he doesn't have the stamina to deal with these things. Like he's unable to deal with it because he can't sit down and think, because he doesn't have that ability to do it anymore. He needs to look at the situation, look at the supply routes, look at who's bringing it in, look at why people are demanding it, and then you can find a solution to address those three prone problems that we have, which is why we're having a drug issue. Firing you, even if you put Mr. Gaiman there tomorrow to fire you too, because you ain't able to do the job with the limited resources that you're given.
Valley, Focus on Liberia posted this. Maybe we need to take a gab at it. Does this missing official address the root issues, or basically we are just grabbing a straw?
I think some people around the president, and by the way, let me just say I disagree that the president does not have the capacity. That's an unfounded statement. But if I were in a position to suggest to the president, I would admonish him to reshuffle his advisory team. I think the method he's using to achieve result at the LDEA is usually dead upon arrival. So you look at three people, higher ups, who have spent a little bit of time and have understood the challenges and some understanding as to how to go about it. But because there are two persons there or one person there who is creating conflict, you just remove all of them and then replace them with another group of novices who have degree in criminal justice. That is not the way. I'm somehow attached to a government job here, and when they're trying to bring new people in, they keep the old people so that the old people will teach the new people. We show the new people the way. If you just up and root the whole team and then bring them back to start, bring different groups to start, you're not getting anywhere. It's like you've just been stagnant. And so the national security advisor, whoever that person is to the president, because the drug issue is a national security issue. There's a lot of complexities in running a government, especially a government of inclusion like this one. Political parties conglomerate, and then one person wins, and he or she is obligated to all those who contributed in pushing him or her up to the presidency. It becomes confusing. You begin to weigh so many things because you be called a traitor, a deceiver, a backstabber, and all of those things. Your integrity is on the line for next time or for the future. So it's a little complicated. But for the president to get some of these things done, he will have to develop the will to say, you know what? I don't care who likes me, Or who wouldn't want to support me next time? I'm going to do this job for the Liberian people. The drug issue, you see, let me tell you something, Mr. Gimme, you guys already know this. Drug cartels are not jokers. Drug cartels are not illiterates. They're not novices. These are well sophisticated people who are well connected. In order to fight drug in Liberia, you will have to go to the root. And that is not about whether drug is coming in or not, because drug will come in. But the ability to arrest it upon an arrival and how you punish people without any favor will serve as deterrent. But we all know we're not going to completely get away from drug. And one of the reasons why drug is making a headway is because the youthful population, they're pretty much dormant. They're not doing anything. You know, they get up in the morning, go to a Thai shop, have conversation. We all did that, but we were at least sober. You weren't going to give me any drugs to take. But we're all not strong, you know, mentally like that. So what I think the president needs to do is to weed out the bad apples, as opposed to just taking out an entire group. Like the A.B. Krumah case is the same thing as this one. The deputies and the boss, they're fighting. You investigate, you went done all kind of investigation based on the accusation level against the boss. You did not find any findings. You didn't find anything, but you say, you know what? I don't want to hurt one person's feeling, so I'll just take all three of them out. But those three guys at least understood some things that the next set of people wouldn't understand. We're at the beginning of the fight against drug in this administration, and the president must become a little more radical as opposed to trying to appease his supporters.
Thank you. Honorable Taiwo, in our Republican parlance, we say starve the beast. That is the agency that you want to fill. You don't give them money. And if you look at this headline, I don't know if you can see it. It says here, most of the agencies in their detachment, they have no cars, not even bikes. In fact, the one in Bond County, they are walking on foot, fighting drug on foot. So if this president is really serious about
resign, just resign.
If the
don't take the job.
If the president is serious about fighting drugs, if the president is serious about fighting drugs, why don't you fully fund this? $490,000 for operational budget. That just $490,000 is nothing.
Yeah. So look at what happened here. When it comes to drugs, it's a straightforward and direct stuff. In Liberia, drugs can go anywhere in the world, right? But Mr. Kamara or Mr. Valley just said here earlier that there were drugs there. We all used to go to that Thai shop growing up. And I grew up in Arabia, and there was a den on the beach. And we were kids, we passed around that area. Why didn't we go over there to even smoke or do anything? Or even go drink? The reason is because we grew up in an environment where our parents could afford to take care of us, where there was a family structure within a home to where we had guardians. After the war, that entire social, economic, and family structure broke down. A whole bunch of the kids raised themselves. When I used to go to school, come home, go on the beach, go swim, when I go home, there was food there for me to eat. There was somebody that I was accountable to. I knew I needed to be home before the sun go down because I was going to be in trouble with my dad. So but go to Liberia now. It is missing. Then what happened? We had some opportunities, areas that we could plug ourselves into. There were all kinds of open field. When the so-called out of school time kind of dry season, we open our football field, organize our leagues. You go to Liberia now, those places are missing. The kids are sitting in the house. Then the ones that are graduate, a lot of kids are going to school and actually trying their best. They're actually graduating from universities at different levels, skill sets. There's nowhere for them to plug in. There's no opportunities. This is not just this government issue. This is the wider stuff that we are experiencing here. So you have a dormant population, like Tabu Mbeki said. Youth is he put it some kind of way. Youth is a good quality, but what are paid to waste it on fools? Not mean fools per se, but like the kids are just sitting around. There is nothing for them to do. Amen. Wait, they have so much energy. So what's going to happen? They are going to go and get involved into things. Any of us, when we're growing up, if that is how we were. So the government, I heard this government, that was one of the arrest agenda. They were going to try to create an environment where they're going to absorb, I don't know how many thousand youth, they're going to train them and do all this stuff. That did not happen. It doesn't matter how many people they dismiss or arrest or do all this stuff. Those basic fundamental things need to be solved. If those things can be resolved, you'll find out. These kids don't just want to sit around. And because what I don't want us to do here is to try to start blaming all of these kids when we don't equip them with the necessary opportunities or skill sets. So how are they going to get them to be productive if there is nothing laid out for them to help them in that direction? But Jerome, you asked a very good question that you honor fun. Remember in this world here, drugs is usually always linked to the government or top people in the government. Okay, in governments across. This very United States, you heard about the Nicaraguan contract or the Iranian contract, where the government still were involved in actually importing drugs. The whole cocaine and crack epidemic that you saw in the 80s and in the 90s that is still plaguing, it was directly done by the government, where they brought it in and they sold into the poor neighborhood. They control it, and they still control it today. Remember, we didn't have all the drug issue at this level until they established that DEA. The US DEA came there and started liaising with them, training them. Even the US was involved in funding to help on the right. Some of the stuff for them to fight the drugs. All of us in the drug thing belong. They said they found $200 million worth of drugs, right? Guess what? Who the first people they called? They didn't call the Liberian government. They called the US embassy. They called McCarthy. He knew first in any country that is even serious. This was on open. The government don't know, but a foreign government is the one that they call, because the fear is that they're going to get in trouble with that foreign government rather than your own government that is there. This is what we are talking about here. What became of the drugs? Did you hear anything about it anymore? It vanished. So what you see going in Liberia is not just a common stuff. It is deeper than what we are looking at in terms of like how the drug is coming in, who's bringing it in. The heavy players, both national and international, that are behind it, and they're known. Some of them are really known. Some are probably in government in higher areas. So to your question, that is why probably the area is underfunded. That is why nobody really get cut. That is why they're not trying to really solve the actual problem. They're just dismissing from one person to the other. And this is not just on a Boakai. Remember on Ellen, when they caught her own vehicle with one of her top people carrying drugs, what became of it? It was reported just once and it disappeared. Nothing came out of that.
Mr. Gaiman, before Mr. Douglas come in, 10 seconds, please, to push back in. Just a point of correction, Mr. Tower. That drug was the United States government helped to facilitate the busting of that drug. So it wasn't that the Liberian government was reporting to them. It's only that they was working in collaboration with the United States government, who had given them, intel to intercept that drug. So let's give credit to where it's due.
But real quick, what happened to that case?
The Americans not going to come try the case for you.
I just want to know, have you heard anything else about that case? Who the Lebanese that brought the frozen food and all that? Whatever happened to them and that company?
Yeah, that's up to our government to do the work diligently. They're not doing it. You can't blame the U.S. They gave you the tip to get that drug. before it can be distributed inside of your country, that's the most they can do. They have no jurisdiction in your courts.
Thank you. Honorable Dugle, there's something called neonatal abstinence syndrome. That is, let's go to the root of this. Those of us who are familiar with how the war started in Liberia, we know that the rebels brought in so much drugs. They were telling these kids that you can take drugs, it will make you brave. Bullet can't do this to you, bullet can't do that. So the entire country was flooded with drugs. These kids now who are born, they were born under the influence. These kids they are drugged babies. Most of them are. I would say 90% of these kids are drug babies. Their parents, the Yeke Kolubas of the world, that group, they all fought in the war. They were all druggies. And they were having children. And those children were born with drug in their system. We are not sophisticated enough to know this, but that's what's happening. And all it takes is one, either alcohol or whatever that is used as gateway, and they get hooked. Your take on this?
Yeah, Mr. Gaiman, thank you for the question. I didn't quite hear the beginning part of the question. The audio wasn't that good, but I got a lot of part of it. You see, Mr. Gaiman, this drug problem is not a new phenomenon in Liberia per se, but I think you yourself and Mr. Tao, probably Ali as well, not so much Mr. Elvis Morris, he's too young to remember some of the things I'm going to talk about. Look, I grew up on Galley Street in the heart of Monrovia. And on Galley Street, there was a ghetto where these drug people used to hang out, just close to Benson Street, Benson and Galley Street right there. If you remember, Santa Maria used to have a sporting goods store right on Galley and Benson Street there, right behind it. That's where the ghetto was located. And so what we knew, as kids growing up, we knew the weed, marijuana and all these things. So all these hard drugs you hear about now in Liberia, in my opinion, at least to my understanding, they are new to Liberia since the 1990s when the war broke out and after the war. And look, this drug issue, it's got so many components to it that it's not just about, dismissing the heads or dismissing there. There is an economic factor to it. There is a social factor to it, as well as a health factor. And so, and security factor. So someone said earlier that these drug cartels are smart people. Of course, they are smart people. And they go out of their way to make sure that they exploit the vulnerabilities of these countries, particularly a country like Liberia, where they know almost every security agency is under-resourced and not well-trained. Our borders are porous. Our ports of entries are just open to anyone. And so you expect the drug cartel to exploit all these elements that is playing in their favor. And as I was driving here, I was listening to the show, and I heard, Elvis say, even in America, some of the guys, the big guys, they are in cahoot with these drug dealer cartel. Yes, they are. But guess what? 9 out of 10 times they get busted. And if you get busted, you will not live to see the daylight. You will rot behind bars. That's it. So we are not at that point, because we know for a fact that most of the people who are facilitating this drug proliferation in our society are also connected to the system, to the government system. So these young men and women that you see today who are victims of this how do you call it, the habit, they themselves, they are victims of society. They are victims of the economy. They are victims of all the ill that is wrong with our country, where people are not paid adequately to do their jobs. People are underpaid, and And as Dr. Budi said, one of the ways to incentivize these people to work better is pay them better. I can tell you from my experience, having lived in the Middle East, there are certain jobs. When you go into the jobs, you know that you are going to make a decent living. And one of those areas is the security sector. Speak to anybody, they will tell you, any Middle Eastern country for that matter, one of the things that they have going for them is their security that you don't play with. They are port of entry. As messy as Lebanon is, you cannot easily enter Lebanon clandestine way or some kind of illegal way. It's extremely difficult. Despite all their difficulties, despite all their mess that they have to deal with, Lebanon. And so are most Middle Eastern countries. So our security sector, they are underfunded. In most cases, some of the men and women who are there, they are not trained. And so the people who are in this drug trade, I think to a certain extent, we have a general idea of who some of these people are and how they operate. So I also heard Elvis talk about intelligence. Intelligence is a big part of fighting drugs. The intelligence of trying to identify where these things come from. I mean, the source country. And to the point where you can even send agents to those countries where they can do reconnaissance for you, and then they can let you know ahead of time that this ship that is coming, it's got this amount of drugs in it. But all of these things have to come together as a whole, because you can't just deal with the security aspect of it and forget about the economic part of it, or you deal with the economic part of it and forget about the social part of it. So this, it needs to be addressed in a holistic way, where you see these young men and women who have got nothing to do after they have killed each other. Some of them were people who fought in the war. Some of them were people who grew up during the war. All they know is getting high and being useless. That's all they know. That's how they grew up. That's how they've been spending their days and nights. And so really, what you see on the street, these people, they themselves are victims of the system, of the bad system that they found themselves in. And so to be able to make a significant dent in this drug phenomenon that we are dealing with right now in Liberia, you have to start with the security sector. I think I've said on this show before, somebody who does business in Liberia told me that the seaport, NPA, National Port Authority, does not have a scanner to scan container to see what is in that container. I mean, so in other words, you can bring in a container, clear that container without the government knowing exactly what is inside. Basically, they will deal with you based on the documentation you present to them, and whatever you say is in your container, that's what it will be. And then you will take that container out of the port and do whatever you want to do. So we know how the drugs come into the country, and like I said, to some extent, we know some of the players. Somebody was just talking about some of these Lebanese people, but these Lebanese people who are doing some of these things, they are well connected to the people who are supposed to be making decisions that will affect this drug phenomenon that we are dealing with. And so really, the Joseph Boakai government has their priority misplaced, in my opinion. Because again, like I said, you can't just deal with one element of it and forget about the other element. You have to deal with it in a holistic way. And I don't think this government is capable of providing all the help that these drug problems have caused us. Young men and women who have been wasted, whose lives have been destroyed. And again, like I said, this phenomenon, this level of what we are seeing right now, to me, this is something that we started experiencing from the year of the war till now. Prior to that, this kind of a prevalence we are seeing wasn't there, like I said. So really, it's a serious problem. Every country that I know of, they do have some problem with drugs, but they are making efforts to make a significant dent in it. Look, I have friends here in this province who are members of the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is the equivalent of the FBI in the United States. And I talk to them sometimes about this phenomenon that we're talking about here now, the drugs. And he said to me, Duke, look, let me tell you one thing. the amount of the budget that our department have to fight these drugs, you have no idea. Because what triggered some of these conversations was once there was a little kid who was a distributor in the streets, a Somalian kid, and I said to one of my guys, my friends, how can you guys sign up after this guy? He said, listen, Abu, if we pick up this kid, if we get him off the street, there's going to be 10 of him back on the street. But we always try to nail down the people who actually supply. And these people are in Toronto, they're in Vancouver, they're in Venezuela, they're in Caracas, they're in Mexico City. These are the guys that we are after. Because if we nail one of them, it takes them months, sometimes years before they can replace them. So these are the kind of ways you fight drugs. These are the way you try to make a significant dent. I don't think we can entirely eliminate this, but if we put all the resources that we need to put into this fight, we can make a significant dent. I don't know if you guys remember, Guinea-Bissau is one of the countries that is that's been pointed out as one of the areas where the cartels ship their drugs to. From there, it makes its way to Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and other countries in the sub-region. And we know from Guinea-Bissau that most of the drugs there comes from Latin America. Colombia, to be specific, Brazil, and other Latin American countries. So we need to fight this holistically, because if you plug in one part and you leave the other part is going to leak. And so it's a problem that requires enormous resource in terms of manpower, in terms of equipment. I mean, like somebody was saying, you go to the border, the guys at the border, they don't have a patrol vehicle. I mean, I don't know if these things are something that we cannot afford. Drones are some of the new technology that people are using to fight drugs. You know, so Mr. Gaiman, these young men you see, in my opinion, these young men are just the victim of our failure as a society. They are the victim of our failure as a national government to cater to their needs. And again, in my opinion, these guys, men and women that you see consuming, they are just a drop in the bucket in dealing with what the problem is.
Thank you.
30 seconds, please. 30 seconds, please.
Yes, Rico, go ahead.
Mr. Dukley, you spoke well. I think you said a lot of things that I'm going to say here now, but I have a solution to prosper, right? And I think our army, we don't have a large army, but they're not doing much in the country. Usually you don't want to deploy your army within the country, but the president can declare a war on drugs. It might be almost performative, but it's almost literal for us. And he can have the joint security come together, the NSA, the Army of the Republic of Liberia, and other security agencies, and really have a collaboration with these different agencies and put the army, especially on the outskirts of our nation, at the borders, put the armies out there. They got all these new Humvees, all these new equipment. What are they doing with it? They're just sitting there in the barracks and they're not doing anything. This is almost an existential crisis for our youth. Something that a lot of Liberians have told this president that they really, really care about. Is something that's bugging them, that's really hurting them. He needs to put the security sector together, the apparatus, and really make this a #1 issue in the country. Deploy the military at the borders, maybe do it for like a year, maybe an executive order. Employ the NSA, take some people who are not doing very, very important work in the executive branch. Put them on that drug operation alongside the Army and other agencies, the police and so forth, and the LDA. Really have a multi-pronged approach, multifaceted approach. Bring more social workers. Show that you really care about this, and throw all the resources that we have at it. I think within a year time we can bring this under control. And Mr. Dukley is right. Guinea-Bissau is a Spanish-speaking country, so a lot of these cartels, they go there, they can easily communicate with them. Also, a coastal country, if I'm not mistaken. So it's easy. It's been labeled as a transitory point for drug in our region. That's why the fact that President Boakai went there to go meet with the Guinea-Bissau president was dumbfounding to many of us. We're not implying anything, but that's not a country that we have a great relationship with. One thing we do know is that there's been a lot of drug coming from there and passing through Liberia, from Brazil, from Colombia, and so forth, from Mexico. So for me, I think the president really, really has to take this as a war, and then we can use and utilize our military and other agencies to really do their job. And that's an opportunity for more recruitment, for further training. If you tell the United States you want to bring 200 people to the United States to learn how to really fight drug, effectively, that's an opportunity for learning. So I think the president needs to consider those options. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
guys. We
Gamer,
have
please
spent
let me push back. Let me push back.
we have
Thank
spent
you.
too much time on this here.
No, no, I
We
know,
got
but
we
let me
got
get 30 seconds
we
to
got
push
three
back
more
on
we
the
got three more
president.
items to go to. Yes, what?
30 seconds, please, because I think this idea of deploying the army, right, to fight drugs is something I wouldn't even go near, because we know what happened in Liberia when the army is being deployed. These guys go and terrorize communities, they loot from our people, and they don't do anything because these guys are underpaid. So putting them in the streets and in communities where police officers should be is unacceptable. That anybody would even suggest that. Look, you
I
can
said
do
at the
all of
borders,
that.
on the
Listen, I
outskirts,
did
at the
not interrupt
borders.
you, Mr. Morrison. Let me finish, right? What you need to do is make drug less attractive for young people. That is the starting point. To do that, instead of employing more people to go stand to the border and stop the drugs, give young people jobs so that they are more
Yeah,
active, so that they don't
yeah,
have bugs on their mind. Create
yes,
opportunities for them not to be idle, not putting officers in the street. Look, whenever time you put army people in our streets, they terrorize our people, right? They loot, they
Yeah, but
beat people,
Dr.
right?
Booty,
Don't do that.
Dr. Booty, what
This
he's
is a
saying.
more professional army.
But listen,
It is not
Dr. Booty, what he's saying is we are all asking about what can we do. He said is one of the suggestions he's putting forth. When you look at this headline here, okay, this headline here, this is from this was in May, and the president had a big national international press conference, right? He said Boakai administration unveils sweeping youth policy to tackle unemployment. This one made news from everywhere. Okay, so this is what we are talking about when everything is just about public relations, just about show. The president talked about 10,000 jobs. The same thing we are talking, you want to get these young kids, give them jobs. These people came up with it, they say it's a policy. And it turned out that there was nothing, it was just a show.
So then we put the army in the street instead.
No, we are talking
Mr.
about,
Booty,
Instead of
just a second, Mr.
listen,
Gamer.
we tell them
we
put
are,
the army in the street.
Mr. Gamer, just give me a second.
Dr. Booty, we are talking about a potpourri. We're throwing everything at it now and see what can stick.
No, but you can't get. That's not how you do, and that's why we never succeed.
Listen, sir. In the United States here, we are seeing the National Guards in areas that are infested and drug and crime is happening. You try anything. Let me go to Taiwo here. Taiwo, let's start with the second. I'm going to do this because we're running out of time. The University of Liberia, right, shuts down. And this is so disheartening for those of you who are into higher education. What does this say about this administration commitment? Because remember when they were campaigning, they were demonizing the CDC. They said CDC was the cause of the drugs. CDC was selling the drugs. CDC wasn't putting much money into university. They shouldn't have done free tuition. They shouldn't have done all of these things. Now they got there, and everything is worse. The university is closed. What does the suspension of the classes now, what does it say about our commitment to higher education, period?
Okay. You know, for me, the university really being closed is one thing. Remember that we always have problem with this one university. Yes, we're talking about now under this administration, but it's always been a problem. And I think the reason is because everything in Liberia is what? Politicized, right? It is never left for it to really run. Things that don't need to be tied to government, like from government to government, they're always tied to the government. So, but this is what I will actually say concerning this. The university being open or closed, to me, is not really the issue. Our problem in Liberia is because, as they put it, that it's not the lack of educated people, It is not the latter. I went to Liberia and I stayed there for an entire year. Those kids, a lot of them are very brilliant. It's the fact that, okay, so people do you know how many people graduate from the universities every year? Yes, you might say maybe 50% of them are not really up to, but I would say like about maybe 20-30% of them, they're really, really up to task. That they just need a little bit of training. But where do they go? Nowhere. So the universities are staying open and they go on. We have to look at something a little bit more. For me, I don't want to look at it from a position that, oh, that the university is closed and so the government is really doing something wrong. Yeah, it happens on every government. This is not the first government on which the university has been closed. And then after some time, they open. It even happened on Ellen. And then even before then on the Dodem and then Opoint, all the stuff. Look, I will tell you this so I can end, because for me, I'm really troubled by this. We are so caught up on the numbers of these universities that open, graduate many people, but we don't look at what they're going to turn out to become. We've engaged many universities, Stella Marie's, not Stella Marie, but Motopaten and other places. And these people charge a lot of money, very competitive to even Ghana and India. We even send people to India. What happened? The kids go over there, they're really good, they graduate. After paying thousands of dollars per person, and they sit idle. Nowhere for them to go. So I think us being so concerned about the university being closed, which yes, we should be, but it's what happened if the kids go through or when they go through and they graduate. There is no future beyond this stuff. And because the public sector is dead, the government eat up everything, they don't invest in the country to where there can be opportunities. So if the university are open and they graduate, then what? That's one thing. So this is how I think it should be looked at. This is not just a Boakai thing. This is the problem that we have. So what we have started doing is to go to a hospital, like the one that graduated from our students that are nurses. They can't even really pay them. So we have to subsidize their income so that they can get work there to get experience. This is how, because I'm really involved into the education of people. This is how deep this thing is. We graduate, so now we're starting to ching-tate because it's like, whoa, hold on. Why send all these people and pay thousands of dollars at a Motopaten and at this other place and at the other place at BWR and at this how you call that store, MVDC, and these kids are coming out and there is nothing. And when they come out, even though you've done all this stuff, they're still looking at you. And then our friends will be like, hey, look, we already gave you education, go. They have nowhere to go. There is nothing for them to do. So this is where we are. So now we are even thinking, what should we do? Should we start trying to create infrastructure to be able to hire them? But we don't have the resources. So we actually pull back a lot on even just putting people. So the news needs to see people that are already doing something that are serious, and then we kind of gauge it. We send people, they monitor it, and then we see how can we enhance what they're doing so that they can make a living instead of just sending people to school because we waste thousands of dollars in that. And not, I would say waste because when they come out, there is nothing, no job, there is no way. So that would be my concern rather than the university is closed. Yeah, seriously.
Okay. Valley, when the president, the new president of the university came in, she did a budget. She said she needed a minimum $44 million to just break even. And she said she was surprised when the budget went through. They sent her 33 point something million, which were almost $10 million short. And she said that was barely enough to just pay staff. Nothing else could be done. So
somebody line is interrupting you, Mr. Gilman. You're not clear.
I'm not clear. Maybe it's your line.
Oh, no, he's clear. I'm hearing him fine. Maybe it's your
I need you to get on that button phone. You won't listen. But but
go ahead.
No, go out and come back in. I see you. You're blinking. Go out and come back in. Dr.
Okay.
Booty, to be fair to the president of the university, she said when she did her assessment, she said to break even, she needed a minimum for about $44 million just to break even, and they gave her $33 million. And she said that was not even enough to pay her staff and nothing else. She said, and this is a microcosm of the national government where 90% of the budget goes to recurring expenses and perks and nothing. That's exactly what she said in this article. So if the lady brought her in to transform the university, she said, I need minimum to get started, minimum 44. And you give me 33. I mean, how serious are we when people take all these fabulous trips that cost so much money? Our priority, what do you think about the university closing?
You see, the thing about this, Mr. Gateman, is it is a catch-22 situation, in my opinion, anyway. And the reason I say that is because, on the one hand, we want the University of Liberia to be the best, right, and produce the brightest minds in Liberia. On the other hand, I'm being more pragmatic and just taking the point that Mr. Tao made, which I have made, and all of us, I think, on this platform have made in various contexts. We're producing so many graduates, but there are no opportunities to absorb them. So maybe it might be in our interest to close the university for some time, create jobs for the plenty of graduates we already got. When they're working now, then we can then start producing. Because what's the point of just producing graduates when there are no jobs for them to do? Right? So we're spending 44 million every year, 44 million just to produce more graduates when we're not utilizing the graduates we're producing. Right? Now, obviously, I don't want us to shut the university, but that's just something for us to think about, right? Because at the end of the day, it does not make sense to me that we have a country that produces thousands. Every time you go to AMEU, the graduating is not in hundreds, it's thousands. You go to Zion, the graduating, the thousands. LU, that almost tens of thousands. Look, we can't keep producing so many graduates when we don't have the capacity to absorb them, right? So what she is saying, in my opinion, if she is saying to me, look, I want 44 million and we can only afford 34, then downsize a little bit, right? Because again, I know people might be shouting at the screens right now and saying like, what the guy talking to? You're supposed to get PhDs, you know better. Well, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But it just don't make sense to me that we're spending all this money to produce graduates that we are not utilizing. What is the point? It's almost like Mr. Valley here, somebody getting job. Every day he go buy a new car. Then he not driving the car just parking. He buy a new car, he park it. It getting rusty, he just buy a new every day. What's the point of buying a new car? If you're not going to drive the car, if you're not going to use it, you just got cars parking. Look, this president came in, and I'm not talking about President Boakai, I'm talking about the president of the University of Liberia. And for me, for example, when we talked about it on point, I said, look, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's sit back, watch what she's going to do, and then judge her, right? Every entity in government, including the University of Liberia, has to take a hit in terms of downsizing, right? I believe she has about 3 or 4 vice presidents. Does the University of Liberia need those many vice presidents, right? I don't know how many directors they have and how many deans. And sometimes, universities here in the UK are doing it because, for example, I'll just say this quickly and then I'll end. Foreign student numbers are dropping in the universities in the UK because of stringent immigration laws. So a lot of foreign students are not coming to the UK anymore. They're going to other places. What that means is university income is dropping. Most universities are amalgamating some of their departments. Some faculties are joining with other faculties. People are getting, because at the end of the day, the University of Liberia should be in a position where a lot of its income should be coming from student fees, right? I think President Boy, what's his name, we are suspended fees or whatever, and that means that the government has to pay it. But then, if that is the case, they need to go back to student paying fees because at the end of the day, they're getting an education. When they get an education, it's them they're going to get an income and generate income from that education. The taxpayer shouldn't be paying for their education. right? We can subsidize it, but we shouldn't be taking the full paycheck burden of the education of individuals who are not going to give their labor, we're talking Labor Day, free to the taxpayer. So if you're not giving us your labor free, we shouldn't be paying for your education. So if we have a 10 million shortfall, even if it's a nominal charge, right? Even if it's 10% of what private universities are charging, charge them a fee so that way we can cover the budget shortfall so that this lady can be able to do the work that she's been brought in to do. So again, this is another example of people not thinking holistically. They're just jumping into things and trying to solve problems. They don't have an idea what the problem is. Whatever George Weah did, we need to undo it. People need to start paying fees so that we can cover the $10 million hole. And that way, this lady will have all of the tools that she needs so that when we're judging her harshly, Mr. Gaiman, it's because that she's had the tool and not delivered, not because she did not have the tool and because of that she did not deliver.
Valley, when the new president came in, she said classrooms are leaking, buildings are leaking, there's no desk for the kids, the buildings are dilapidated, all of these repair needs to be done. And she said to get going, just to bring it up to standard, she needed at least $44 million, and she got 33. So she said that was just enough to pay staff. Now, Dr. Booty is talking about cutting staff. You can't cut staff because they are unionized, they got legal protection. It's a whole lot of way to go. So how do we get out of this?
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, let me say that acquiring education doesn't necessarily mean that government must absorb you when you shall have completed your education. It also doesn't mean that someone must hire you just because you have an education. It's very important to educate the nation because the purpose of that is knowledge and being informed. One of the problems we have with our people, and we haven't taught them these things, I think it's a foundational problem. We believe that once you go to school, you have to land a government job upon graduation. And everybody's going to school to work in the government. That's the problem. But unfortunately, that is not the truth. You have to go to school so that you're able to create, you're able to invent, you're able to discover. I understand that a condition must be created for you to do those things, and that can be a whole new discussion. But the idea that we don't need to graduate all these people, and then they sit down, what are you talking about? You can graduate them, they can be educated, and when the opportunity comes, there has to be people ready to fill in that gap. For example, there are many technical institutions, companies, one time that wanted to go to Liberia, especially in the area of cyber technology and other technological fields, they say Liberia does not have the manpower. So that is an ill advice to say there's no need graduating all these people when you don't need them. That was a really poor statement from Dr. Bode. I think he regrets making such a statement. When somebody said this is not a Joe Boakai thing, you know, I will say this and stay out of the politics, but this is a Joe Boakai thing. I think President Joseph Boakai is failing in this area, and I think he's failing because of the lack of will. The decision George Weah made to make the University of Liberia free of tuition was not thought through. It was an unreasonable, unlogical, nonsensical decision. If you have a university which budget in the national budget is not sufficient to even clean the laboratories, how can you then send people to go to school for free? How do you cover up if there's financial gap? We expected that Joe Boakai would come and become radical because he should have nothing to lose. But again, one of the reasons why Joseph Boakai decided to appoint this woman as the president of the University of Liberia was because he is depending on her to come up with her own proposals to him. Now, Budi is talking about cutting down staff. That makes sense. But Joseph Boakai cannot sit in his office and say, cut down staffs. The president of the University of Liberia have to send that proposal to Joe Boakai because she is a confidant. Joseph Boakai trusts her. That's why he put her there. If she can come up with all of these solutions to Joe Boakai and Joe Boakai does not touch it, then we have an issue. But 33 million for the University of Liberia and everything only goes to staffers. I think the University of Liberia needs to be audited. It seriously needs to be audited. But as far as the University of Liberia being closed and why it is really closed, I haven't gotten clear detail as to whether it is closed and why. The only thing I know, they're having some issues over there and there are conversations about limited finances.
Well, the University of Liberia is closed because of all the things we talked about. In particular, the union, the staff have met, and there were several, according to them, there were several promises made to them about salaries, about compensations, about benefits, about arrears, and those things have not been addressed. So they have decided collectively to lay down the chalk and make sure that nobody goes to work. That is one. You were right. The lady did make a complete proposal to the president, including, according to her, according to this article here, which was done, that was way back. I think, yeah, this was, it was first done in May, then again in August. It says here, she was addressing the reason that most of these things happen is for us to rehabilitate these buildings and bring them up to speed and all that with minimum $44 million. And because they were $10 to $11 million short,
Mr. Gilman, 1 second. Mr. Gilman, 1 second. Was that a proposal to the president or was that a news release?
No, a proposal to the president that was supposed to be incorporated in the budget. And then the national budget appropriated $33 million to her. And she's saying it was the bare minimum to get even the thing on par with $44 million. So this is why she is saying the buildings are dilapidated. The roofs are leaking, no bathroom, none of these things. Some of the girls had to go on the Fidel campus. The girls got to go in the bushes and all that. So she enumerated everything, but this is what it is. Let me go to our young man, Mr. Morris.
Did you say Fidel? Did I have a Fidel campus or Fendel?
Fendel. Yeah, Fidel.
Let's clarify. I get campus in my
ladies and gentlemen, I had named a campus after him, and now you can go and make some donation to that campus. But it's Fendel.
Okay, Mr. Gaiman, let me say this, right? Aesthetics, when it comes to university, right, is important. Wanting to be on campus, wanting to go to to the auditorium or go into the cafeteria, those things are really important. Aesthetics is important. And it's one of the things that we haven't improved on in Liberia. The way we build our homes, based on our season, you're almost putting yourself in trap because wealthy people, sometimes you pass by the house and you look at their fence, the pin is peeling off. Maybe every other year you have to have a budget to repin your home or repin your fence or repin the facade of whatever building that you're occupying. So that's an issue. We build with concrete and we pin with whether it's what do you call it, water pin or acrylic pin, whatever kind of pin they got, right? And these pins are not going to last under the heat that we have in Liberia. The humidity of it is going to peel those pins off. Maybe every year and a half you have to repin. That's one of the issues. So the facade of the University of Liberia, it looks dilapidated, not because anything that, not because they're not taking good care of it, just because our weather, is going to necessitate that you pay every other year or so. And then, what's the profit margin of the University of Liberia? And I would blame President Weah for this, right? I think the fact that he did the free tuition, whether the university was making some marginal profit before, all of that was taken away for the vast majority of his term. So probably now they're in a bigger hole than they would have been before financially, had they had tuition being paid. But then again, here you have, private universities that have endowments, alumni will come back and donate. People who have become really successful, sometimes they donate millions of dollars to get a wing named after them or a department named after their mother or whatever the case may be. We have it's almost like a state-owned university because I don't think it's private, it's a state-owned university. And you're depending on the budget budgetary alignment on a yearly basis to run that university. But it's going to be it has to be a positive cascading effect. And that starts with the LRA. I think President Boakai has said something about Double Jala that he's going to raise $1 billion. Double Jala can raise $1 billion then. You know, I don't know who can do it. Something to that effect that he said. It's been going on year 2 now. We haven't reached anywhere close to $1 billion in revenue. But I think if we can somehow do it, which will probably be America at this point, then places like the University of Liberia would benefit tremendously in the budget. I hope so. You know, the JFK will probably benefit tremendously. Some of these key institutions, one of the things we need to prioritize when it comes to maintenance, the hospital, our primary hospital, primary university, and all of our ministerial buildings. To maintain them, you have to put them in the budget and really make sure that you get a good amount of money for the maintenance, because again, aesthetics is important. When people come to your country and they see that your buildings are well kept, your bathroom, you know, are well sanitized, those things leave a good impression that the country is being ran well. So for me, I think the president of the university, maybe she has to tweak her approach. I know that's a skeleton budget relative to that of the United States and what universities will have here. But I hope that she will understand that based on the financial constraint of our country, we can't take $44 million and give it to the university. It's just not possible. So I think the president's main focus now is that put the pressure on Double Jala, strategize in a way that next fiscal year, you have to raise a minimum of at least $800 million. If you can't reach that billion, let it be at least $100 million more than you had last year. That way you have extra money to put into places like the hospital and the University of Liberia. That's my take.
Why don't you just quote salaries of those at the top, right? Because we could raise $200 million for that.
Dr. Booty.
No, Mr. Dukley, still.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on 1 minute. Mr. Dukley, real quick. We got a few minutes here. The free tuition, according to the previous government, was $6.8 million, but $7 million for the entire free tuition, right? So here we are. We have the vice president, the speaker, the deputy speaker, and the president pro tem. Those 4 people, their office budget is over $11 million US. Just 4 people. 4. So talk to me, how can we say the University of Liberia is suffering, but 4 individuals got $11 million? Where if your priority is not screwed up, then something is wrong. Your take on this?
Yeah, you know, Mr. Gaiman, this is you when you're talking about the University of Liberia and all of this problem, you have to take it, you have to put it in context. Look, when Dr. Mapaya was chosen to head the University of Liberia, and she came up with this budget of 44 million. From what I read, this 44 million was a conservative estimate that was just going to break even barely. But look, this is a national institution. This is a government-owned institution, and I know at least 1 or 2 things. Myself being in the institutions of higher learning, look. My province where I live is called Manitoba. It's one of the poorest provinces in Canada by comparison. But I can tell you here, tuition here is 70% subsidized. So whatever amount that you pay to go to school here is the equivalent of 30% of what the cost should be. And yet this province is able to afford that through adequate planning, and at the same time, with the very foundation that the university has. And so, when you look at the University of Liberia, is the national university of the nation. And so, when you're talking about giving students free tuition, the manner in which that whole thing was carried on was ill advised because, as a matter of fact, it's doable. But the way the CDC government went about it was the wrong way. Because you can't just come and blanketly say, oh, everybody at the University of Liberia is free. Why don't you make it, based on needs? There are people there who can afford to go to the university, who can afford to pay tuition to the university. But again, you have to look at it with some skepticism, because there are certain things that are basic, like an adequate classroom, well-equipped classroom, well-maintained building where the kids go to learn. These are something that you cannot do without. I mean, I don't know. I just can't understand. I've been to the University of Liberia, I think, once. I grew up in Monrovia. I only used to hear about it. It was this one time, 2010, I believe it was, when I paid a visit to the University of Liberia main campus on Capitol Hill, and I said, "Really?" To me, it was like one of the high schools we have in this province here, and yet people are not able to maintain these buildings. 2-3 individuals whose office budget is because they have not come to prioritize the University of Liberia. Why don't we have such problem at Cottington? Why don't we have such problem at other universities who are less in terms of numbers to the University of Liberia? Because these people pay attention to these numbers. They pay attention to the infrastructure that the kids need to learn. Listen, again, I think the comparison is not really in place here, but I'm just drawing on it to say that despite all the challenges we have, we are misplacing our priorities. Look, it's not the number of graduates that we are putting out is the problem. The problem is there's no economy to absorb them. There is no vibrant private sector. But I don't think that should be a reason why we should not graduate the number of graduates that we graduate. You can restrict or you can limit admission to a certain number that will be comparable to what the university can afford, And so really, Mr. Gaiman, this is about economics to begin with, and the politics of it is that University of Liberia is not attractive in terms of stealing money. It's not attractive in terms of diverting funds, and so it's not a priority of the politician who was supposed to be looking after this university. This is the only institution of higher learning that is owned by the state, and yet we can maintain it. And $44 million budget. We are arguing about it. We are saying, oh, we can't afford 44, so we'll get 33 million, because their priority is somewhere else. Their priority is about stealing more money. It's very troubling to see that an institution as old as the University of Liberia is in such a dilapidated condition, and nobody seems to care. And you expect the kids to go there and learn. So, Mr. Gaiman, it's the matter of they're doing the minimum, the basic minimum, which is to make sure that you got the infrastructure that the kids need to go to and learn. Like I said, I kept saying here, using the Manitoba example, just to say that this is a poor province and we don't have much, but because education is prioritized, we are seeing that despite the disparity between our province and other provinces, we see that our graduates are competitive in the Canadian market. As a matter of fact, as you may know, Canada as a nation has no federal department of education. Look, as recently as, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 years ago or a little more, first degree in the United Kingdom was free. Every British was entitled to get their first degree free. Beyond that, some fees. How many students go to the University of Liberia that the government cannot afford to look after them? It's, again, Mr. Gaiman, it's a matter of the government inability to focus and to improve and to do all the things they need to do to look after the student that go to the university.
Thank you. Let me welcome Mr. Gay. Mr. Gay, we got 10 minutes here, but talking about the University of Liberia, I'm looking at those who are in Minnesota. The University of Minnesota, let's just look at the endowment, 5.5 billion. The University of Florida, 2.55 billion. I mean, we're talking about, I'm not even talking about the bigger, older schools. I'm talking about the regular state schools.
Yeah, Penn State and Pennsylvania.
This is endowment money set aside. They raise money, they invest it, nobody touches it. It is there to make sure that the university runs. It has like a reserve. So when this new president came in, that she came from the United States, I thought she would have come up with some scheme as to how money would be raised, rent would be raised to build some kind of endowment. The university has nothing.
Yeah, but I want to disagree with the last speaker. First of all, good evening to you guys. I thought I was going to be free, but then something popped up at my work here and like help me back. But let me say this, right? There are money in government right now that they can get to sponsor the university. They chose not to. Their lawmaker, aside from the salary, came up with a scheme called legislative projects, where 11.8 million United States dollars is given to lawmakers. Each representative receive 100,000, and senator receive 150,000. The other day, I asked the very question to Representative Bellady, and he said, "Oh, they reduced it to 50,000." But here's the thing: they don't need that money. That money can be put into the University of Liberia automatically to jumpstart the circumstances that are holding the university back. All right. There are other areas like the higher ups in government as well. Apart from the top four you just named, their salary, their benefit, and all that, they can cut those things and help the people. For example, the acting bank governor of the central bank currently gets $5,000 housing allowance, $7,000 cash allowance. That's 12,000. That's what's the name? 12,000 right there, right?
Yeah,
then he gets 10,000 in salary.
Mm-hmm.
So 12,000 plus 10,000, that's $22,000 in salary. We have not talked about his vehicle. We are not talking about gasoline. We are not talking about a generator yet. One human being, right? Then the government brags about, oh, civil servant make $150 a month. That's $1,800 annually. Can somebody live on $1,800 for a whole year in Liberia with your family? But this is the kind of government that we have that don't care about the people whatsoever. This administration don't care. Whether you support the administration, you don't support the administration. I'm not here for that today. I'm here to tell you that this administration does not prioritize the thing that matter to the people most. They prioritize their buddies. They prioritize themselves. They prioritize their inner circle. Because the University of Liberia is the microcosm of the society. How can you neglect the University of Liberia? At least 65% of those that work in government today came from that university. Came from that very university that prepared them, that gave them the future they have today. But they are neglecting that university, and they are not just neglecting the university as a structure, as a building, but generation to come, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations to come. They are destroying the future of Liberia by doing such. And so they really need to go into government and find the money. The money is there. They just spent, what, $260,000 on a trip to Japan. $260,000 on 40 person that went to Japan at a rate of $6,500. That's just economic class. Everybody did not sit in economic class. Obviously, the president did not sit in economic class. He sat in first class. And some of the other guys sat in business class. So they have the money. They chose not to. This is not an excuse. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to end with this point that if the government mean well, the government needs to prioritize the most important things. Stop wasting money on some other generator that costs $3,500 a month just for fuel, and put the money to places that would benefit the people. And this lady came with a good plan, but the plan would not, generate result without funding. She lay out her plan, how she wants to move the university. She cannot just start raising money on her own. Before you go to donors, you got to lay out, hey, I have done X, Y, and Z. I need X, Y, and Z. She can just go there with empty hand to say, I want to raise money. They gotta start from somewhere, and the University of Liberia and the government also need to sponsor the University of Liberia so that they can build upon what she want to put into place. She has great plans, but unfortunately, this administration is not doing her any justice. I want to leave it there.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the end of our show, so we got 3 minutes. We'll give everybody 1 minute, and let's see with the time so we can close and be out of here. Let me start with Dr. Booty. Dr. Booty.
Yeah, another great show. Some interesting topics that we've covered. It's been good. I like the ideas brought forth by most of the panelists. Apart from Mr. Valley, there was a point that he made. I'm going to use my 30
You never
seconds.
agree with Mr. Valley.
Yeah, I'm going to use my 30 seconds.
Today they agreed. Today they were buddies.
Can you not interrupt me? Let me use my 30 seconds to push back on the Valley, man. Please.
Today you and Valley were buddies. You got your 1 minute start.
Valley said that the president doesn't lack capacity. I did not say that he lacked capacity. I said he lacked the stamina, right? That's what I said. I said he lacked the stamina. You can have the desire to do something, but if the stamina not there, you can't do it. It's the stamina, I said. So you misquoted me. So next time, please listen when people are talking and not just be sitting there and doing the Boakai sleeping technique. We beg you. But a great show, as always, and lovely to be on here with you guys.
The Booty, stay on.
Taiwo, 1 minute.
Yeah. So real quick, on the drug issue, we keep saying border. I want to tackle a couple of things really quick. They're saying Liberia have all these poorer borders, and they would name somewhere way near the Guinea-Liberia mountain. Are you saying that the drug cartel will bring drug, put it on some car, get it all the way in the bush so that people can carry small bag and bring it through the various borders into Liberia? So not really. Yes, drugs come in like that, but the bulk of the drugs are coming through the main area, the RIA and the port. So those are the areas that they actually need to focus on, put the right people, and if somebody is compromised, deal with them. The next one here is we're talking about the school. Yes, Mr. Valley, you are saying that that the Booty should be even ashamed of it because he's saying that we don't need a many graduates. No, there is not. No, we don't need that. Your education is about the survival for people. Education is not just about going to what education is. We even have the wrong educational model. That's the first thing. Liberia and America cannot have the same educational model because they don't have the same problem. Your educational system is to reflect your problem that you are trying to solve. So, yes, we shouldn't graduate all these people. Look at the graduates that we're putting out. What is Liberia problem? Where are the everybody in business administration, in accounting, in finance, in management? No. We need to look. We don't need those graduates. That is where the problem is. So you are saying that the government don't need to absorb them. Where are they going to go? They got to go get jobs. But if you focus on the areas that are very important that you think you need, look, I will tell you, so I can end. I went to school in this country almost free. How? Because when I started in the first year, I paid tuition. By my second year, I was actually recruited. I was paid to go to school. I'm just trying to tell you because the American government, the system is looking at people where they can, so they incentivize areas. And they fund you in areas where they need people. So I went to school, went to various labs, worked with different scientists. I went to school for free. And I will actually pay to go to school. Because why? They were attracting people in the areas that they needed. And those are the areas they funded. Those are the areas they gave scholarships and they gave all of this stuff. So it was not just me. Many of us as Africans and Indians and everybody else that I was in school, we all went because we couldn't afford the tuition. So we went in. So that's what we're talking about. So when they go and read the book called Regulating the Poor, education is about social welfare. You expand and contract education as you need it, and you move it where you need it. It is plain like, bro, we don't do those studies. Everything is just stagnant and it's just there. So no, we can't graduate people just for the sake of it. Then we don't need them. Then maybe the university should be closed. That is what he meant.
Thank you. Thank you. Where's the other gentleman? He left. Okay, let's go to you, Mr. Morris.
Yeah, I mean, it's my closing, but I'll just push back on Mr. Taiwo, right? Look, one of the most practical degree you can get is in business. Whether it's business management or administration, because not only can you work in a corporation, but you have the tools to start your own business. One of the things that we're lacking in the country is a strong private sector and the building of industries in Liberia. So if people have the education, especially in business and in finance, where they can start a business and effectively run that business and make it profitable, and maybe be able to do it on a larger scale and employ more people. Those are things that we need. So entrepreneurship and businesses being built in the country is necessary. Building our private sector is very much necessary because then it will absorb some of these graduates. Look, education, is never a bad thing, and we should never frown on it and say that we shouldn't graduate graduates because there's not a lot of people not a lot of options in the country to absorb them. Many Liberians tend to leave the country. They go to neighboring countries. Some of them seek to come to the West and other places, and the education can give them a good foundation to get even higher education and get better jobs in other places. So never, should we call for the closing of our university or the stopping of giving people degrees. But lastly, I would say this on the issue of the drug, right? My point here is that the border, our porous borders is one of the main ways that people bring drugs through the country. Even I think the former LDA deputy was saying that a lot of people stack up these trucks. You see the old truck that leaning one side with bundle of goods on it. The way they would tie, the way they would do certain things on that, it's almost impossible for you to untie and do a full check of what's coming through the borders on those trucks. And that's one of the ways that people smuggle drugs into the country. Places like Ganta where you can walk from Ganta and go all the way, go to Guinea and maybe come out by the afternoon. Nobody's going to give you a hard time. Same thing with the Ivory Coast border. So our borders have to be checked. Our free port, of course, have to be updated and get more security. Our coast guards have to be reinforced. You have to do a multi-pronged approach. It's not just using the LDA to fight drugs. Number one, there are not enough of them. Number two, our rural areas is abandoned. Places like Playboy in Maryland, places like Bumming County, all those places where you don't have a lot of resources. People can easily proliferate drugs in those areas. So my point here is the military is not doing much. They're getting paid for the most part. They're sitting there in the barracks. They're not doing much. Put them on the outskirts of the nation, to the borders. They're not going to be in communities. They're not going to harm anybody. Just to make sure that they can secure the border. Maybe you do it for a year and give them something to do and work in collaboration with other agencies, security agencies, and make sure that we can put this thing under control and then formulate a better plan going forward. That was just my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Vali.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say you can replay the tape when Fidel was speaking. If you did not use the word or the phrase lack the capacity more than once, I put $100 in Focus on Liberia covered.
That's it, $100?
Yes.
You think I'm going to waste my time going to do all that today for $100?
Okay, well, here's the thing. Here is the thing. That kind of statement, if Tao or Dr. Buri were influential people, these are the kind of statement you get in 25 latches for. So say you don't need all those graduates, and to make a statement such as it only working in America, it doesn't work in Liberia. What happened, man? Americans need telephone. They invented it. Don't we need telephone? We're not using it. So if we can impact children in technology in high number, what is wrong with that? Could they be able to invent something? Or maybe a telecom company wants to go to Liberia. Do they have to import people from Ghana, from Kenya, from Sierra Leone? That's what's happening to Orange right now. Most of the technicians are very young. Most of them are from Sierra Leone and Ghana. You're telling me that because the curriculum comes from America, therefore you should not give it to the children of Liberia, but you should just create job in government and just absorb everybody because you went to free school in America? We can't be disseminating information like this. But Mr. Gilman, it has been a wonderful show. It's been a little bit not political. I think everybody have been pretty much addressing the issue. This is what I want. You can't just cut Joseph Boakai, 200-year-old, he will die tomorrow. That's those are the kind of nonsense I don't have patience for.
Two things can be true at the same time. So.
No, not in this situation. Because you don't know that. Look at one of his juniors, his best friend.
Finish, my man.
His best friend, but his junior just died. Younger people are dying before him. So I can't sit down and can't tell me the man 100-year-old. He can me die. Don't kind of thing that wasting my time. But it's been a wonderful show.
No matter how soon you die, they will still call you late.
Okay, can I suggest a format, right? Every time Valley's on the show, let him go first because he gave so much misinformation that people need to correct him, but we don't have time.
I mean, you're pretty close, man. That's good.
Joseph Boakai is the deacon at the Never Die Church. The man just said it. Joseph Boakai would never die. Mr. Duke, close her out.
Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. Thank you to my fellow panelists. I think it was a very good show today. But Mr. Gaiman, I want you to remember this phenomenon of the drug that we are having right now it's got several elements to it that you cannot deal with one element and leave the other and be effective. We need to make that clear, and we can see that it's obvious. And this is not in any way suggesting that one element is important than the other. So, it's something that we are going to be grappling with until such time that we got a good handle on these elements, namely economics, security, and social, and all that comes with them. And talking about higher education in Liberia, Mr. Gaiman, again, I don't think it's the lack of money, it's the lack of will. And the people who are supposed to do this, I don't think they are paying the requisite attention to improving the University of Liberia. I mean, it can be done. It has been done before, and it can be done now, only with the will and the desire to improve things at the University of Liberia. There is so much waste in the government, so much waste that even in my calculation, in my estimation, if you are just able to bring in at least 40% of that waste, 40%, only 40%, that 40% can go a very long way in addressing some of the critical needs of the nation, including the drug problem that we're having in Liberia right now. But until then, I don't want to hold my breath, and it's just going to be what we are doing here day in and day out. Thank you very much for the show today. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Starting next Sunday, we are going to be celebrating our anniversary. On Point is the longest consistent running show on FOL since our beginning in, I think, 2019. That's going on 6 years. We have not been on the air. We have been consistent. It's because of people like you. So next week, we are going to be doing some things about how do we celebrate. So guys, if you have time, go into the chat room, give us some ideas. We're going to be paying tribute to some of the friends that we have lost and some of the folks that have. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say On Point is the longest serving FOL show because of guys like you. Because since I've been knowing you and just interacting with you, everything you do, you devote to it and you go into it long term. So you should give yourself that credit. Actually, we come and we are part of it, but you.
That's super putting Mr.
So Mr. Tao, just because the man from Grand Baza County.
Baza bluffing Benel, so don't get too much bread.
Grand Baza County.
A whole can of water. Listen, we'll keep it for next Sunday when we come back here. Guys, please go in the chat room, give us some idea as to how we can celebrate our anniversary. But remember now, The Bassa man said one finger can't pick lice. If lice is in your hair or something, you need two. So I can't do it by myself. I need other people here. That's
Mr. Gamer, don't give us that story. The man from Grand Pastor County. You from Grand Pastor County. What do you expect us to say?
That is two Bassa finger then.
I have Bassa too, so I have Bassa finger.
Yeah, the little Bassa man, there you go. Okay,
Everybody
guys,
will
God
be
bless.
Bassa
See you
now.
next
Mr.
Sunday.
Gamer.
I'm not a Bassa more. I can deny.
What are we doing here?